Hello, hello. This is Budgets with Grace, where I give you a glimpse of my life using the lens of my budget. My name's Grace, and today we are celebrating 100 subscribers on my channel, which is amazing. I never anticipated getting this many followers. Some people might think YNAB is a little
Uh-huh.
nerdy, but it's really cool that there's so many people that want to follow along as I budget. So, in celebration of that, I am going to recreate another Budget Mom Budget by Paycheck numbers into YNAB. Before I get into this, in one of her monthly recap videos, Miko, the Budget Mom, specifically said that she didn't think that digital budgeting software was good for budgeting and that it really takes out your understanding of the method and how it works, and that's why her method is better. And I completely respect Miko, and I'm so happy that her cash envelope system and her workbook has worked for so many people. This is just what works for me, and I have been feeling inspired to do this just because I like to budget so much. And I'm not saying that anybody who likes the Budget Mom or that the like written by hand method works for you, like keep doing that. I just thought some people might be interested because I had fun making this. The first worksheet that Miko brings up is their income and pay schedule. I'll show you now how I created this in YNAB. I planned to do this video earlier, so I pre-made this, which is actually kind of cool because now the recurring transactions that I've set up have continued, and you can kind of see how this has been working in the background over time without me even touching it. I created their checking account, and this is where I've set up all of their bills as well as their income. I'm just going to filter by to be budgeted so we can just focus on their income. In her worksheets, they get paid every other week, but they are on opposite weeks, so they get a payday every week. It just fluctuates a little bit how much they get. I'm just going to approve these since we're here. And you can start to see the highlighter method that she uses in her budget calendar. Notice how each of these paychecks have a different color and then they repeat. That's how Miko tracks what income is paying what bills, which I think I'll explain towards the end how that becomes a little bit obsolete as you use YNAB and as you age your money. Bills and fixed expenses. First of all, I went into their budget and I renamed these categories to fit what Miko calls them. Let's move into November since they do have some money. Maybe we can budget for some of these obligations. So, daycare is a bill that comes in weekly. So, they pay it every Monday. So, in order to do this, I've created a goal. It's a needed for spending goal and it occurs weekly. So every Monday, this becomes a new goal. So because this couple is on a really tight budget, they are not going to be budgeting ahead for now. But I am going to cover this overspending with their to be budgeted. That means that they still need 320 for the next or for the rest of the month. So I'm going to move 160 for this coming Monday. All right, and these have already been budgeted for. I'm going to add on these credit cards. These are the minimum payments, and I'll get back to that in just a minute. Internet is 83. And water and trash, you can see the little calendar means that it's upcoming. Um, oh, and I didn't make a goal for this one. Let's look in the checking account. I will update this. And again, because their rent is so high, one of the recommendations Miko put in, which I also agree with, is putting aside a little bit each paycheck to cover this. I'm gonna get back to that in a minute. And we'll pay the doctor bill. These have already been taken care of. Now that we're to the credit card section, we have these two categories, which their goal amounts are their minimum payments. So when it's time to pay these minimum payments, they are going to put it into these categories. And I think I'm going to add variable expense to credit card interest. The way this will work is if interest is charged to either of these two credit cards, she'll put that into this category and budget for it. When the expense comes out, YNAB will automatically transfer that amount into these categories. The reason for that is this credit card payments category, I can't even edit the name. It's because it's auto-generated when you enter a credit card account. And same with these, I can't change their names here. I would have to edit them in this window. The auto-generated credit group is a little complex to explain, and I'm getting a little tripped up just trying to explain it. So I'll link to Nick True's video where he explains how that works a little more in depth, but for now we're just going to move on. Doctor bill is another one of their debts. Let me look at their checking account one more time. I'll go ahead and approve some of these, get those out of the way. So when is their next payday? Let's see, we're paying for this in orange and purple. I labeled this one yellow because it's multiple paychecks. It's not just one. It looks like it does have to be funded with the income that we have now. So I'm going to go back to the budget, click on this, and click under funded. So now their bills and expenses are paid for in November. Before we get down to variable expenses, I am going to go forward into December and cover the minimum payments for their cars. Now we're going to get into their variable expenses. These would be the equivalent of cash envelopes in YNAB. So I'm going to click on all of them and click under funded. I do want to show you how you could use a cash envelope system in YNAB. So I'm going to add an account. It's going to be unlinked, and it's just going to be a tracking account. It's going to be an asset. I'll call it CE for cash envelope groceries. And we'll start it at 0. I can see in groceries, their current balance should be 400. So I'll go into checking, add a transaction. We'll move this into our cash envelope for groceries. It's coming out of groceries. And the outflow is 400. So now in groceries, you get this whole other page to track your transactions. And you can do it digitally, but you can operate out of cash. I think this is a really great option if you're finding it a bit cumbersome to write out all of your transactions or like you're not great at math like me, and having this software do it for you is really helpful. And you'll see in groceries, now this says 0. It's the same way that Miko does her sinking funds. She actually counts that as a transaction out of her budget, so her budget equals 0. And then when she's ready to spend it, she counts it as inflow. And using that method is totally fine. You can do that in YNAB, but it's just not really the way it was designed to work. A lot of YNAB is a little bit imaginary, like this category for gas, which I haven't created a tracking account for, is an envelope. It's just a digital imaginary envelope. So it's really just about how your brain works and what is going to help you accomplish your financial goals. Their debt picture. For this family of 6, they have 2 credit cards and they have car loans and a doctor bill. The doctor bill is at a 0% interest, so I think she just was recommending to pay the minimum balance. I think Miko made this suggestion as well to attack the smallest credit card because it's such a low balance, it would get it out of your life. And then probably the next credit card, because that's the next smallest amount, except for the doctor bill, it's probably the higher interest rate as opposed to the cars. And they could even sell their cars if they're this expensive. They must be pretty new models. And they could really reduce that bill, which I think is another recommendation Miko was making. So YNAB isn't like great for making goals to pay off your debt. There is a feature where if you click on one of these automated credit cards accounts, they have different goal types. So you could do pay off by date or pay off a specific amount per month, which pay off by date is probably pretty cool. Like if I say 2 years for credit card one, which has almost 10 grand, the goal amount is 182.27. And what I like about it is you can play with it and see how that changes. Like they'd have to be making a $500 payment to their credit card every month. That's one reason that I don't use this goal type for their minimum payments. We could change it up and say pay a specific amount each month and just make it their minimum payment. It looks like that's what I did for credit card too. Maybe I had changed my mind about that earlier. And then the only thing I don't like is I can't edit this and I guess I could put it over here. Man, I'm like so scattered. Third, I think it was. And oops. Now I will just delete these two. Oh, I hit it by accident. I was like, what the heck just happened? This kind of gets back to what I was talking about with the interest. That's one reason you have to have a different category for interest, is you can't just charge it to this automated category. Like you can't charge anything directly to your credit card without categorizing it in your budget. So interest gets charged directly to your credit card, whatever bank. So Visa, credit card interest, and it's going to cost $10. Now when I go back to my budget, you can see it shows the credit card charge, and when I budget for it, that goes to 0, and this goes to green with $10. So it's telling me that I have budgeted my cash in my checking account to pay off this credit card. This is a quick, easy way to see how much your payment is. You can even fast track it even further and click record payment, and it automatically inputs all the cash that you've budgeted to pay off the debt. Some really fun stuff, I know. It looks like I overlooked one daycare. There should be another one on the 30th, so I'm going to add that now. I think it's $160 per week. The last thing I'm going to go over are my personal recommendations. I'll reference a few recommendations that I agree with that Miko made, but mostly I'm going to be looking at making this layout a little bit more YNAB-ish and less TBM-ish. I like to call these immediate obligations. And in addition to that, I'll move the credit card interest into that category. This probably has a specific date associated with it. It's probably their bill due date. And so if I had that information, I would add it here, but I'll just leave it as is for now. The other thing I love about the way YNAB handles credit cards is it forces you to pay off all the interest so that 100% of your payment is going to the principal, which really accelerates your ability to pay off the loan. And I think it's the way a lot of loan providers show you paying off your loan, but you are not explicitly told that, which is a lot of situations that students get into because they're paying the minimum payments, but 100% of it is going to interest. So the total is increasing. Variable expenses, I would call this spending, and savings goals. I'm going to add a category for true expenses, which is another YNAB term. I like to keep it under immediate obligations, and I'm going to add rent cushion because they know that they are currently just too much is going to rent to guarantee that they can pay it off each month, so they need to tuck away cash when they can. And car maintenance, I'm also going to put in that category. So now I'm going to add a few more line items, like in addition to car maintenance, which maybe that is the bill amount if they have to bring it into an auto shop to get something checked out. Could also be their oil change needs to happen, and they specifically know how much that oil change is based on how much it was last time. Similarly, maybe they need new tires or maybe an alignment. These are all, the reason they're called true expenses is because you know they're coming. Maybe you haven't thought about it in the big picture of your budget before, but it's a lot easier to have consistency in your budget than it is to have a sudden big expense. Like $100 oil change would completely throw this couple off track right now. But if they'd been putting away $10 for it every month, that has a way less impact for them in the big picture. So those are pretty much all my recommendations for this family. Again, I'm so stoked to have 100 subscribers, and thanks for watching. If you could like, comment, subscribe, all the things, it really supports my channel, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!